journey of designers. Here we will discuss about how to kickstart your journey in the field of design and basically how to think while creating a user interface. So starting on the speakers, firstly we have Miss Mansi Narvilkar, who is a human-computer interaction designer and researcher at Georgia Institute of Technology. Then we have with us Mr. Darshan Gajra, who is a senior product designer at Marvelous Graph CMS and have worked upon various Freenode projects like Bookmeasure. Next, we have with us Mr. Saptrishi Prakash, an IIT Madras pass out, a frequent TEDx speaker, a product design manager at Swiggy. Moving on to our next guest speaker, we have Mr. Puneet Chawla with us, who qualified for the semi-finals of Adobe Achievement Awards, has been a Google Event speaker for 3 times, and the founder of Design Wings. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Abhinav Agarwal, who is a self-taught designer. He writes really insightful blogs and works as a product designer at Airtel. We at Coach FVIT are really grateful to have you all with us today. Thank you for being with us, sir. So starting on with our discussion, I would like to ask you all with a very basic thing that you all are from engineering background. So how did the design caught your attention or caught your eye? How did you plan to come into the field of design? So starting on with Mr. Abhinav, how did you start it, sir?
So I guess my answer kind of connect with lot of self-taught designer coming from engineering background. I guess I have heard of Trishi story. It's kind of same. I've got into design by designing posters and banners for my college events, some T-shirts. So in second year, one of my senior approached me to design, and there was a Counter-Strike event. He wanted me to design a poster for it. So that was the first poster which I designed, and kind of everyone liked that poster and the way I've designed it. So from there, the next year, on the third year when I was in, okay, they were like, okay, this guy Abhinav designed a really great poster. Why not give him more designs into it? So on third year, I was kind of designing everything that was going in the event. That was Chivalry 2014 or 15, I'm not remembering. So from there, I kind of got into design. From there, I got introduced with Photoshop, and I keep on enjoying. The main part was I enjoy the process of creating those posters and anything. It was no burden for me. It was not, because already we have a lot of work. We were doing studies. Engineering is not easy. But those posters and those processes were something I really enjoyed. And that's how I kind of thought, okay, this is something I like doing, and why not try getting into as a making it as a career. So after my BTech, I was looking for both development jobs and for job in design, because I was not very sure how good I am or did I get a job or not. But luckily, I got first job in Times Internet as an email designer. But it was not directly design, but I was coding and designing at the same time. So from there, I pushed myself. Okay, can I design one app screen? They was working on some apps. So that's how I got into design, and since then I'm still here.
That's a really nice journey, sir. Mansi ma'am, was the journey a bit similar or was it a very different journey for you? How was it for you?
So for me, I have been trying to crawl my way back, through the waterfall cycle. So my career started as a software tester. While I was doing my engineering, I'm an IT engineer, like only barely, because I'm terrible at coding. So when I graduated, I knew for sure that I didn't want to code. So I got into software testing. So I worked for like a couple of years in software testing, and then I was like, hang on, let's move back one step. Let's look at development. Let's look at design. So that's how I started looking at design, because what I was testing was essentially designed by someone. So that's when I decided to pursue my master's in design for digital interaction. That's what digital experience. That's what my course was called at NID when I got admitted, and it has now been renamed to interaction design. So while I've been in this field, it's been renamed once. So what started off as design for digital experience is now interaction design. So I guess that's been my journey.
Yeah. So all the journeys you are telling about are really nice. But if there is a fresher who doesn't have any knowledge about design, so what can be the break point for that person to enter into the field of design? Puneet sir, how would you answer that question, sir?
I think my advice to anybody would always be to just jump into whatever, because I see so many people losing out on opportunities. And I started off just learning like from a 7-day trial online from Team Treehouse, and I was like, I just need to get into this now. So, like a lot of people I see wondering about what role to take on or what field of design to go in. I just say just jump into it. If you like it, if you love it, go forward. If you don't, then quit and then start new. So I think a lot of people don't take that for granted. Is we're young, we can try a lot of stuff. And as somebody, Mansi spoke about interaction design. Saptarsh, she's great with motion. Abhinav's great with content creation. So the variety of talents, so as to say. So just figure out your talent, what you're the best at, and then maybe move from there.
So, Darshan sir, do you want to add something to what Puneet sir answered?
Yeah, I mean, to add, I can just say that I would just reconfirm that what he's saying is also something that I believe in. I believe that there are two kinds of people. So, one who already know what they want. So, then they would try to find the way to get into something because they already know what they want. And then there would be other kinds of people who are not sure what they want, but what they can do is they can explore a few different things. And by exploring these different things, what they would realize is, this is not something that I like. Then they would move on to next, move on to next. But they have to keep on trying. If you explore or if you give yourself a chance to do that, you might end up with something which you actually like.
Yeah, but as a starter, maybe many of the students don't have the prior knowledge that where can we get the resources from or where to start. So, how did you start it? Like, did you have any idea about the design, or somebody just give you a click that you can try it here or you can do that, or you were given a task to do something like that?
So I can tell you how I got into design in the first place. So growing up, I was very fascinated about computer games, and I wanted to be a game developer. So which is why I joined computer engineering. And when I started engineering, I was getting very bored with what they were teaching me at the college. I wanted to learn the things that people are actually using in the industry out there. So I started making websites. I started going online, try to teach myself HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all those things. And when I started making those websites, I also started getting some freelance projects. It was mostly through recommendations and friends of friends and college councils and all those things. I just kept taking on those opportunities. And for me, I did not realize that there was a thing called as design and development. I just used to think that making websites, they're just making websites because I used to do the design, do the development, and that's ready. So by the end of my fourth year of engineering, I realized that there's also a field called as UI UX design, and I always knew that when I was designing during that whole process of making a website, I used to love the most. So I thought that why not make a full time career into it, and which is why I started looking out for opportunities in design. And fortunately, I found Book My Show, and that's how my journey actually began professionally. Because before that, I was just making some scrappy freelance websites, grabbing some frameworks from here and there, trying to Google things, just doing that. So it was again about exploring. I did not know that there was an industry like this that even existed.
Okay. So, if we sum up your all of your journeys, so it was like you were suddenly introduced to design, and then that design made a really big impact in your life, and you were really interested into the design. So, all of the points you covered will definitely help our audience to finally kickstart their journey to design. But is it certainly advisable to take up design as your career, like alone design as a career, or do we have to have the prior knowledge of other domains also? For example, we have front end. If we know about the front end, we can design more better and usable designs that are executable for the developer to develop. So, what are your views on this, Saptar?
Yeah, I think prerequisites are very important. There's one very important thing that you must know before you get into design, and that is common sense. So now you tell me, do you need to learn common sense? So, in my opinion, what at least I have learned in my life, I'm completely self-learned, by the way. I have not spent a single penny on learning design in the last 6 years of my life. So everything was based on common sense. Everything was based on people around me, which includes, of course, Darshan had been a good friend for a long time. My colleagues, internet, YouTube. So majority of my learning happened from there. So what I feel is design is inside all of us. We all design to a certain extent for our own lives on a daily basis. It's like singing. All of us can sing. We all are 80% there. We may not be the best out there, but we all can sing. So it's similar that way. Design, anyone can design, but to be professional, it's not enough to be 80%. You need to be in the top 2 or 3% of your game. That's when you are counted as a professional. Otherwise, there's no difference between you and somebody else. So I think that's what I would say about that's what my idea about design is.
So, Abhinav, sir, as you are a self-taught designer, as we all know, so did you face any further hurdles to come up with the designing, or was it as same as other people have the journey? Like, did you face any other problems other than others? But
Actually, the it was a quite weird because the company which I initially joined, there was only one designer, and even that designer was he was a web developer, then was a graphic designer. He was not specifically a UI UX designer. He just know things how to use the tool. He was very good at using the tool. So when you start a journey, I think that's very important to have a guidance. People who can guide your path because you keep on exploring. Exploring is good, but you try think, okay, this doesn't work, and okay, you try something else. But if you have something to guide you, something and teach, okay, can I use this book or can I go? This is processor right or not? And I guess that's fasten the process. These were the few things which I initially faced problem where I wanted to approach people because that time that community was not that strong. You cannot just directly ping message anyone and have any problems, ask, send them the design and you get a feedback directly. Now it happens, you have a design, you can directly send to any designer. They will feel free to reply to you and give you some constructive feedback. That time it was not for me. I used to go to various dribble meeters. That's where it helped me, where I tried to connect a lot of designer from across Delhi. Okay, this is the from this company, and I keep in touch with them. I keep on asking a couple of questions even after table meetup, what process they are wanting. Even there are times when I used to take my laptop, and after there is a breakdown session where I used to show them my designs. Okay, this is the design that I created. Yeah, they maybe give me like 5-10 minutes, but those 5-10 minutes I wanted to get what I can get from them, what more I can get from them. So I used to just open my laptop and show my design. This is the design I created. Some find it really, sometimes it's odd. Okay, you came up with the laptop showing your work and everything, but for me it was very helpful. The feedback which I got within that 5 minute of span of time, that was very helpful to me and helped me to push myself a little forward.
so, if I ask you all that if you had known this thing earlier before joining designing, so what could be the common mistakes which everyone is doing or can do if he or she is a fresher before joining designing? So, starting on with Puneet sir.
I hate the word fresher because when I when I joined my first full-time opportunity, before that for 3 years I was working with various startups on different projects as a consultant, and all of a sudden this wall of system comes in between, and I feel a lot of these students who are coming into design, they take it as okay, it's like engineering, it's like medicine, it's like any other career that you follow. And the problem is design is something which is really evolved for the new age. The new age can literally learn anything online and then apply it, and then they could earn millions out of it. There are people who are really fast forwarding their career with just as what Saptarshi stated earlier, common sense. So I feel there's a lot of underwhelming thoughts towards designs in the minds of students who are up and coming, and I feel they should just say, I hope I'm allowed to cuss, they should just say, fuck college. If I'm in engineering, if I'm in another field, I can just pick up design from college, learn from a design school, or just online free YouTube, whatever, and just get ahead. And when I started, I was not only I was at a higher position than most freshers, I was then making double or triple the money they were making. So I just suggest everyone is that make your own path, set your own path. Don't listen to these seminars, or don't listen to these constructs that if you follow this path, you will get here in the next 5 years. Try and fast forward everything. Not in the sense that you don't learn anything, but in the sense that you aren't blocked by that wall of that system. Just
Correct. So that was some real truth and straight in the face. So Mansiam, do you have some views on this? Are they different, or do you feel that it's right, or it's somewhere similar to what Puneet sir said?
I would say that design as a practice is really easy to get into, especially if you start small. And I think that's how I would advise anyone to start. Start by helping out people around you. Like, start by designing someone's resume. Start by design has like fortunately or unfortunately, the presentation layer of design is very, very important. And that's the first thing that people see. That's how design is presented. So, the communication part of design. But there's a whole other layer which you will understand once your design thinking matures. I feel like jumping into that sort of thinking is just, I mean, if you just read books or if you, like talk to people and learn that will be second-hand knowledge. But I think that there are certain things that you have to realize in your own practice, and that takes time. So I would say that when you look at someone else's journey, you're looking at the end product of probably like decades of hard work. So what you see is this is what happened when you do A, B, C, D, and E, but you don't see all the other things that that person might have tried in order to get there. My journey had a lot of failures and a lot of hoops that I had to jump through to get to where I am today, and I feel like those were necessary. If I had gotten guidance or if I'd like taken shortcuts, I would probably not be the designer that I am today. And I feel like those failures or those obstacles are extremely necessary to build a robust design practice, because design is a lot more than just what you see. Uh, it is essentially, as a designer, you're a proxy of your user. So to understand the responsibility and the accountability that comes with that is, I feel, goes a long way into deciding if your designs are any good. That makes sense.
Correct. So there's a very important confusion, or what we can say, it's very common confusion that's among everyone, that UI is same as UX, that user interface is equal or equivalent to user experience. So how would you burst that myth among the students that we have today? How do they differentiate? What's the difference between these two? Darshan sir.
Okay, so I knew that was going to come to me.
that myth seems dead by now. By the number of videos people are milking out difference
Yeah.
between UI and UX, I think that's
I mean, I would say for me, obviously UI and UX are like different disciplines. People who work into UI, they design the user interfaces. People who work into UX, they could be doing user research, making wireframes, assisting the UI designer. But there are also product designers and UI UX designers who do all. And for me, I don't really see UI and UX as different disciplines because, I mean, there's this very common saying that goes by form follows function, right? So if you want to get people to start using your product, it has to be nicely done. It has to look beautiful. It has to be visually appealing. And what is going to make them stay is the user experience. If you don't provide a good experience, then obviously they're not going to stay there. The entry point was UI, but UX is going to make them stay. And I believe that so there's this designer out there called MDS, Matt D. Smith. He recently launched a new course called Shift Nudge, which is a course for anyone to start learning product design. And he has this very nice clip in that course, which bursts this myth about UI and UX. And he's also someone who doesn't see them as a different discipline. And you would always see that people who only specialize in one field, they might always face challenges in progressing in their careers. So I don't really see it as a different discipline.
So if anyone wants to add to Darshan sir, it's open. It's a conference, not an interview. I don't want to make it an interview if it feels like. Anyone can add.
I want Shapta to answer.
Yeah, like Puneet had said, there are already tons of content. Like it's already overloaded with different kinds of differentiation where people say, again, we are here to just say about our opinion. In my opinion, I largely agree with what Darshan had said. In my opinion, UI is a subset of UX because the interface also is a part of creating the experience that your user will finally feel or go through, right? So it's one part of it. Yes, I mean, it's up to you if you choose to be just a person who does UI. Yes, your choice. I shouldn't be questioning you as to why did you just choose to do one part of it. That's your choice again. But in my opinion, it's a subset of UX. And folks, please excuse me for the aspect ratio of my video. I think it looks squeezed. It bothers me as a designer to see it that way. I've already raised the bug to air meet.
Okay, so now as everyone knows, it's a COVID situation and it's not normal like it was before. So how has it affected the life of designers, or is it like profitable for the designers to do stuff at home, or has it make it more hassle to do the stuff, or is it very hard to cooperate with other designers at the same time? Or what are your thoughts?
Is it open question or
It's an open question. Anyone can answer. Yeah.
okay? Okay, I think I can start on that. Uh, Personally, me and my team haven't found a lot of problems. Things were fine because we have tools which are good enough, which kind of takes care of all our needs, except one thing. We call it whiteboarding in the design language, where a couple of designers are standing in front of a whiteboard where we are sketching, discussing, and generally putting their thoughts out on a whiteboard. So that's what we call whiteboarding. That is something which is possible. We have been using various tools for doing that, but I felt the offline one is a lot more effective than that what we have been doing online. But other than that, things had never been a problem. Like collaboration also was not a problem, right? Because all the tools that we use are designed that way, luckily. Like, I mean, I literally go on calls every day, Slack calls, video calls, which are say 2 hours long. We have used split screen. We see the videos on one panel, and the Figma tool, the tool which we use, runs on the other side. And 3 or 4 designers are talking and working on the same thing. You say, okay, no, this doesn't feel very good. Yeah, maybe we should try this way. Maybe we post something else there. We paste some inspiration. So it doesn't feel like we are working from our respective homes. It feels just like, we all are standing around one desk and we are just working out there. So personally, that had not been a problem. Motivation could be one of the things, but I think that can be solved with frequent sync ups and keeping everyone involved with something or the other. Yeah, would love to hear others' opinions as well.
I want to add on this. As I've recently joined Airtel during the COVID only. So when I joined, they got like it was lockdown. For me, before joining Airtel, it was more of a learning from the team. So they have a really big team, around 40 to 50 to 60 people. So I was very looking forward to meet everyone, interact with them, learn from them at part to part. Okay, go to the seed, ask something about. That is something which I miss with this COVID, because with workflow you can interact directly with the team. Okay, this is work, but those informal conversation during that coffee, during the lunch time or coffee time, where you don't just gossip, you discuss about design, what you're working on, this is the problem that you face. Okay, that is something I really miss. And when it comes to work, yeah, for work is, I suppose, there are various digital tools that we can do on, but those interaction, those informal conversation, and those were very productive. They're not just about work, but they are very circling. Those circle around design, but they are very productive. This is something I really miss. Yeah, I'm hoping in the lockdown and I get to meet a lot of people from my team.
So should we move on to the next question?
One thing I'd like to add there is, I think one issue with work from home, the whole concept of working from home has like this big problem, which people hate, but they don't address as much. Is there's a lot of exploitation of time. I feel just because there's no constraint of going to an office, I feel people think time is just it's something that everybody can give. And earlier it used to be, okay, you clock in at this time and then you clock out, and when you've clocked out, unless there's an emergency, you don't need to do something. Now it's all about, okay, can we have a meeting at 8? Can we have a meeting at night? I'm not sure if you guys agree with this, but definitely there's something that happened with me at Magic Bricks, and it kind of pissed me off a lot, and I've gotten into way more arguments and fights after COVID started because of this whole situation. And I think as a designer, you need a lot. You need time. You need time to think. You need time to create something. You need time to conceptualize something. It's not something that just comes from, okay, I'll just start typing in something, or I need to send these 100 emails or whatever it might be. It's a creative process. So earlier also, I don't agree to a lot of the whole Indian system of working, and that was on top of that this started, so it kind of just builds up the whole Jugadu system, or the whole Dehadi system. I call it the Dehadi system. No, nothing against people who do Dehadi, but for sure that's something that still exists.
Okay, so people from the chat are asking that what are the collaboration tools you usually use to maintain perfect coordination among yourselves?
Figma. I feel there's so many tools you could use. You could use 100 tools, but why bother yourself with using 10 different tools to do something that you can do on one platform? Figma has like a ton of plugins for note taking, whiteboarding, stuff like that, and you can use Figma for 90% of your work. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's same with us as well. Figma and any reliable messenger, be it Slack, Hangout, or anything. I think that takes care of 95% of the work.
Even we only use Figma, and like we have Slack for the communication. That works well. For communication or chat, you can connect on a call on Slack, and there is a Figma that screen shares.
Mansi ma'am?
So in terms of research, it becomes a little more difficult to do it remotely. However, there are tools available to do more like end stage research, so more validatory research. But generative research is a challenge. Because when you're trying to figure out a domain or trying to understand a domain, that research becomes more difficult during this time. There are tools like user testing and all of that, like they help you do like A/B testing and evaluations and things like that. That is, I mean, we used to use those even before COVID. But yeah, the generative research, I think, I mean, we're yet to figure out like an alternative to like in-person contextual inquiry, because I think nothing beats that.
That's right, ma'am. So people here are asking that where do you find the inspiration and the thinking processes for your design? So if anyone wants to, Darshan sir, you're missing out.
I can tell you that inspiration is actually all around you. You don't really have to restrain yourself to one particular thing. If you ask this question to Saptashi, I think he had also mentioned in one of his videos that where he finds inspiration from when he travels, he's looking at tickets and he's seeing how the signages are designed. If you get a chance to visit Europe, you would see that signages are really neatly done, and Europe really works in a system. I would say like Europe has a design system for its economy, and they make a very great use of it. So you can find inspiration from there, and then you could also there are also some practical places to find inspiration. Like say for example, if you're solving a particular problem in a travel industry, and you're challenged with something like say there's a user flow for booking a ticket, and now, obviously, you could go to places like Dribble and Behance where you could find visual inspiration. But there's also one thing that I like to do that I see a lot of times that people who have already worked in those industries, they might have also written case studies about it. They might have published their thinking behind it. There could be posts. So I would just look for those designers, and I would try to go into their portfolio and see what were the challenges that they were solving and how did they actually solve that. And the reason why I do this is also because I feel that I don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Like sometimes if I can learn from other people's mistake, I would rather do that than just make my own mistakes and learn from it. And it's a great way to just, and also in today's day and age, everybody's creating so much of content. You always have so much out there. One skill that you need to master during this time would be to Google. I see that people restrict themselves a lot of times, which is they would reach out to someone, and if they don't respond, they would feel stuck by it. They would not give them even a chance to do that thing by themselves. So having a mentor or having people that you can ask questions to is great if you have that, but that's not something that should stop you, because even if you just Google and if you see what people have produced out there, you can find inspiration from there. You can try something. People that you work with, you can brainstorm with them. You can ask them questions. You can have a conversation with them. Something also come up from that. So I think if you keep your eyes and ears open and sometimes keep your mouth shut, you might get inspiration.
Okay, sir. So we have Adit Wani here from the audience. He wanted to ask a question. Yeah, Adit, you can ask.
Right. Lately tech companies like Google and Apple and others also, they've been switching their design to a more minimalistic vibe of sorts. Do you think that the designing process behind logos like these is harder or easier?
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think anything. That's why I asked. I don't have an opinion yet.
I mean, I can just say add one thing here, which is uh, to remove something from the thing that you have made is a lot more harder than to add something new to it. So if you want to make a great design, make sure that you remove all the unwanted parts. Make sure you remove all the redundant things. Once you start stripping out all the unnecessary details, you would reach to a point where it's minimal and it's also something that really works well. And I think that is what you're referring to as minimal design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you give it a try, I think you might find out the answer to it.
Adit, not to put you on a spot, but let me ask you this. When you look at an Apple phone or maybe a Mac or any Apple product, do you feel like it was made for you?
Well, I don't really use Apple products, so I wouldn't know.
Uh, so, like, what I'm getting at is India is probably not a target market for Apples and the Googles of the world. And if you want to look at what design trends are happening in India, look at companies that are homegrown. Like look at Swiggy, for example, or look at products that are uniquely Indian instead of looking at products that have been customized for India. So often, what the disconnect that I find in design is that we try and look at trends that have originated in the West for a different audience. And often we are not ready for those trends, or we do not have a taste for those trends. As Indians, our visual culture is full of inspiration, and our visual world is very different from what the West sees. So the apps that originate here from designers that have lived in this culture have a very different design language, and rightly so. And there shouldn't be a comparison because the audiences that these apps cater to are very very different. So you might look at a product or an app and feel, oh, this is made for me. And when a product makes you feel that, uh, that design or designer or the design team or the company or the business has succeeded.
Right. I understood. Thank you.
Adit, I'll just add one thing to it. I think Apple was being referred. Let me show you another Apple product here. This is an AirPods. Okay, when you take it out, this thing has noise cancellation inside. If I put it in my ear and press one button, it will cancel every other noise. How does it work? It has some mics in it. It accepts all the ambient noise, analyzes the waves, creates anti-waves, cancels it out. A simple wave subtraction.
Yeah.
Do I need to know that as a user?
No.
So they covered it up inside a nice small structure and narrowed it into one simple button. You press it, every Ramayana Mahabharata is going to happen inside. You don't have to bother about it. This is what Darshan was referring to, right? And the second thing I think what your question was about the visual nature of it. Now this is how it looks. Now, is it beautiful? That's subjective. When I
Yeah.
put it in my ear, does my ear look good? That is subjective. Some people may like this sort of style. Someone else may like something which is bigger, which makes you feel like, okay, something really heavy is happening. That is preferential. That's where, the opinions what Mansi was referring to, like the what West prefers versus what a country like India prefers, and versus what a country like China prefers. I would highly recommend you check out the Chinese apps as well. You will know the stark difference what I'm talking about. All of them are good design in their own worlds.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, so if we were talking about the change in the application of the UI design, if you have to rebuild a UI design, not from the starting or from the basic, if you have to just make some minor changes, what would be the aspects you all would think upon and then come to the change or a bit tweak, a small tweak that could help or improve the user experience in the future of that app? So, Puneet sir, if you have anything to add on this.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is a philosophy. Like most designers who know that there's a business side of it as well, will know that if it works for the business, if it works for the company, or if it works for the product, it's good. Don't you've seen Amazon's interface. It's still the same after so many years. They've just modernized it a little bit for the current public, but it doesn't change drastically. There's no redesign, there's no new concept. LinkedIn changed their new design all of a sudden. Facebook changes their design all of a sudden. Companies like Amazon, they don't do that because they're confident of their product. They know what's working for them will keep on working for them unless it doesn't. So I think a lot of designers think, how can I find a better solution for this? Maybe there's not a better solution. If there's not, stop at that. Maybe fix some other issues which do exist. That's my 2 cents on that.
One thing I wanted to add on that is, if something is working for someone else, doesn't mean that will work for you too. A lot of time we see an idea come in, the X product is doing, let's do that too. It's not always you'll implement it will work. Maybe it's working for them. There's a different kind of audience. There's a different USP of them. So a lot of time we face when product manager and even business come like, X company is doing it, let's do that too. But you have to understand your own audience. You have to understand your own base. Then think of it, will this work in our audience or not? Or maybe do an A/B testing, push it, for solve for it. Just don't do it because others are doing it.
I'll also add one bit to it. I completely agree with what Puneet said about don't fix it if it's not broken. But here's one thing, in context of companies, what is broken is also decided by you. For example, if let's take a random case, 100 people are visiting one page, 30 people are transacting. It's not broken, right? So maybe you shouldn't fix anything. But that doesn't mean that the 30 cannot become 40 or 50. So you decide what your definition of being broken is. And if you feel that you need to reach a stage where 40 is your threshold, maybe then you'll have to find out that what can we do, if at all we can, anything in terms of UX to achieve that. So, that's the definition of broken. So once you figure that out, then you go inwards. But the thing is, you always work towards something. You do not redesign something just for the heck of it. There's always a reason behind.
So, if we talk about a finished product, we always have to look to the base. Where did it come from? It always come from an industry where a lot of designers work together, and although they think differently, but they have to work on the same project and create one single thing that would cater all the needs of the users. Darshan sir, how do you explain or how do you feel? What was your experience while working in the group of designers that were as professional as you were, and come out with the same design, but all the members had the same or the different thinking styles?
So I think I would need some clarification on that. What exactly are you trying to get from this?
I'm just trying to say that there are a lot of people with different mindsets in one team of designers, but they have to work on one single project and come out with one final project. So, were there any clashes between the designers that no, this is correct or that design could be better, or it went smooth? How was it?
I'll just try to reframe that. I think you're trying to ask that when you put a lot of smart people in the same group with different mindsets, how do you make them collaborate on something, right?
Exactly. Sir.
Okay, so I think one thing that would motivate them would be if they are working towards the same problem, and they have to know that they are all in this together. The goals have to be the same. Now, say for example, they are working for Swiggy, and they would have the goal of to have the best user experience for someone to order food at their doorstep, and that's the common problem that they might have. Now, Saptashi would have 3 or 4 people working in their design team. Now, they have the common set of problems. They could have different ways of approaching that problem. They could brainstorm, they could think of many different solutions. And one way to also not kill the ideas is that you should make other people feel comfortable in sharing those ideas. It's okay if their opinions differ, but that's what they are for, right? If they all have the same opinion, then what are they even bringing to the table? So, but what's going to keep them together is that they know what their goal is, and they are open to listening to other people's ideas as well. They're going to try those things out, and they would have a very rational argument about it, which is, if you could make a bold statement, that's okay, but you also need to provide a reasoning behind that bold statement. And tell a compelling story, the others would also buy it. So I think that's how you could work in a group.
So working professionally, there's always a time constraint, and the designers are always, maybe not, I should not say that, but they're told that they have to make certain changes according to the client, and that too within time frame. Is that true, or what? What are the problems that one designer could face while at the last moment when the client asks that change this thing, or this is not looking good, I don't want this. So how do you people react to that?
So I would say life is full of nuances, and you always have to get the context behind it. You could be talking from the context of someone who is working in an agency. He might have a boss who depends on a particular client. In many of the cases, they might just have to bite the bullet. And yes, no matter where you're working, everything is always time constrained. You don't have unlimited time to work on something. So even if you're working in a product company, you might have explored a lot of solutions, and you might not be satisfied with what you've got, but you might have a time constraint that you have to ship something, so you might have to go ahead with something. So there's always going to be that, and I think it's okay. Sometimes you don't have to always fight for this kind of things. It's okay to let your ego be taken out of the equation.
Yeah, okay. Puneet,
Yep.
do you have?
Madhav, I'll add one small thing to it.
Yes,
So, yes, the question that you've asked is I think more suitable for an agency sort of setup where you said client. When most of us, I think, work here for product companies, and in product, you are the client yourself. You are working for not somebody else, but it's your responsibility to make sure that your product succeeds. It is good, it is talked about, right? So that's a responsibility that we have on our shoulder. But having said that, we do receive such last minute requests, where this needs to be done because reason ABC are happening and we need to stop it right away. So when we get those reasons, we analyze the reasons. Does it make sense? If yes, then yes, I will go ahead and do it, even if it needs me to stay awake for the whole night, right? But if we feel that it's not right, we have the right to ask questions. We can say, why do you think this is the right solution for that? If we do, X, Y, Z, that would in fact solve it in a better way. Just giving example, right? But in our company, we have one core value. We call it stand up, disagree, and commit. So, you stand up, you disagree if you disagree with something, but at the end, if it is good for the organization, you go ahead and commit as well. So I think this mantra kind of helps me a lot. Anytime when I feel I disagree, but I will still commit because the business needs it.
I think you need to. I'll just add something to what Saptarshi and Darshan said. I think you really need to learn how to speak the language of the other stakeholder, the other party. In this case, it could be the client, it could be the PMs, it could be anybody. You need to know how to speak their language. If you tell them कि cognitive load बढ़ जाएगा, they know shit all about cognitive load. कैसे बढ़ेगा? They know nothing about it. You have to tell them in numbers. You have to speak in the terms of how it will affect the business. You have to show them test results. You have to convince them that way. Where I feel in a way designers are also in a way marketers. We need to market ourselves. We need to market our solutions. We need to market our designs. So if we if we look at ourselves as somebody who's okay, we're just like the client, no, that won't work out. You need to understand there's a huge language barrier in this case, or there's a huge there can be a lot of misunderstandings as well, so you need to really speak in that language, in their language.
Right. So my next point would be that the technology is changing very rapidly and drastically every day. So and it's becoming accessible to everyone. So what are your views for making websites or platforms or some designs for all the users? For example, if there is someone who's handicapped or someone who cannot hear or like speak properly or have a motor disability. So can we cater their needs, like designing some of the user interface which they can use in their daily lives?
I think we should cater those things. People generally miss out those things. Like, yeah, okay, and it is as simple as on Instagram when you upload a post, there is an option for alternate text for those who have these disabilities. People don't do that. It takes extra effort. You have to go there, type all those content of your that you have had on your post on a textual form. But if you care about those people also, you have to put an extra effort. So there is an extra effort because in general, whenever people see the product, it's really good. But those small amount are kind of missing it, and generally people don't point out those things. Those people, okay, we should make it. Maybe there are times you have to darken your font a little bit. You have to increase the font size a little bit extra just because of those. And in general, we will think, okay, will it good for the design visual perspective? क्या डिजाइन थोड़ी बिगड़ जाएगी थोड़ा font small font looks very good, it's minimal design, it's very good, but at the same time you think about them, maybe increasing a little font size or increasing the shade of the color will help them to see the view. So you have to have that mindset, you have to think about them also, you have to care about them, these are also the people, and if there is an extra effort needs to be put in, and you have to do that.
I think accessibility is way. I don't disagree that accessibility can be achieved through UI. I just feel that accessibility is way beyond just UI. I mean, for somebody who can't see, they don't know what user interface is. For them, user interface is this. For them, it's touch. It could be what they're hearing. I think everybody should go and search. There's a video. I don't know who posted that, but of a lady who was interacting with her phone, texting and everything, a blind lady on her iPhone, and she was interacting with the entire iPhone like real smoothly. There was no intervention of any sort. So I think accessibility is more achieved through how they want to experience something, or how people who are in that position, if they're disabled or if they can't see or hear, how do we make it better for them? And there's no better way of, this is where user research would come in play, would be actually going to them, seeing how they what everything they do on screen, are they able to, what are the problems they're facing on the screen, are they able to type properly or through speech or whatever it might be. I think accessibility is, I think this is where Mansi should get into more, because she's more into interaction design. I think this is where interaction design could come.
So, Manav, first of all, kudos to you for asking this question, because it's very important to talk about accessibility and how, like in India, it's probably called inclusive design or universal design, which is beyond just designing for accessibility. So, like here in the United States, I've known of like lawsuits that a blind person had filed against a popular airline. And this happened because it took this person slightly longer than what is expected to book a flight ticket. So the expectation of like from a website of just people over here is really inspiring, because it's here everybody deserves an equitable access to all kinds of technology, and it is our responsibility as designers to not just consider them as disabled people but just as people, because all of us in different contexts are disabled. Let's say it's dark and there's no electricity, we are blind, or the physical products that we use are we are going to be blind to the products that we use. So different contexts render us disabled, and therefore one should not think of these users as a category to be designed for, but we should make sure that all of our designs are um, viable in a multitude of contexts. So I would encourage you all to look up, especially because you all probably have more to do with web design, to look up WCAG guidelines. The WCAG 2.0 is the latest standard in web accessibility. So it defines the use of colors, contrast, and sizes on different types of devices and resolutions. So this is just about web, but there are different standards by which you can make even like industrial design more accessible. So there's a lot of research that's happening in this space, and I encourage you all to like go and look it up. There's a lot of good stuff happening.
It sounds extreme. Do anyone have any other points to add? Oh, so we have a question from Yanshu Yadav. Yeah, you can ask. Yeah. Yanshu, you can ask a question. Yanshu, am I audible? Okay.
Yeah, hello, hello.
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, my question is that what are your other areas of interest or hobbies, and how do they help you bring a different perspective into your design? Like I was reading a blog on Medium about Sapta sir's animation illustration, 3D illustration, and he showed like how the physics, high school physics, helped him brought different perspective into his design. So that's my question. Like, how does it help you?
Okay, since you quoted me, I will I will go first. Yes, Yanshu. First of all, not everything needs to have something to do with design. Okay, in my case, physics had been. I love physics. I'm good at physics, especially mechanics. The
Okay,
main reason being I had a very good teacher in my 12th standard.
okay,
That person, like, he would explain the most complicated concepts with such easy analogies that you once know it, you will never forget in your life. Like, there are some concepts of mechanics I know I will never forget in my life till the time I die. And that's the same technique that I use when I teach something as well. So if you follow my videos, you'll see I use a lot of analogies, and it has all come from my physics teacher in my 12th, right? So
that's
it's
right.
that way. So if I were to tell you about design again, my hobby, if you said, I love to drive. That's something, of course, I don't talk about much in public. So at times you will just see me late at the night going out, with my car, driving all the way to airport, which is 40 kilometers over here in Bangalore, because it makes me happy. It relaxes me, right? Because once I take a drive and I see everything moving around me, it just refreshes me, and it gets me all charged. This is not directly related to design or something, but often I have seen if I go take a drive, it charges me to work for a few hours even more. So that way, maybe indirectly it is. And about physics, I think you've already read on that. So relative motion, how things fall, how things move, that is generally helps me create more realistic animations, if I put it that way. Yeah, would love to hear from others.
Yeah,
And I would just say that keep hobbies as your hobbies. You don't really need to necessarily complicate them. Uh, it's a reason why you call them as hobby because it's something that you love doing. Now it doesn't matter if you get paid to do that or not. But also, and when you do something, it's also going to brush off on your other skills. Like whatever you do in your life is also going to show in other streams of your uh, life or your work, and that's okay. I mean, if you're learning from that and if you're using that at your work, that's also fine. If you're not doing that, that's also fine. Do not be pressurized by that.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so he talked about the motion design stuff. So I have also seen the motion design and your examples also on Instagram. So how do you design them? Like, what are the tools you use to design them? Are they included in your prototyping softwares or design using UI softwares, or do you use something else?
Okay, if you're asking about the motion design thing, I do not do anything with a tool first approach. I see what needs to be done, and then based on that, I pick the right tool, which it's to get the best results or to get the best outcome, best implementation. So I decide the tool based on what I intend to do. So if you ask particularly about the animations, more often than not, if I'm implementing something, it's usually done in After Effects because I have the liberty to use Lottie and all, which makes implementation much faster and easier. But if it is just about convincing someone, or say a roadshow sort of thing where I'm, say, convincing the leadership about what we should do, the direction that we should go ahead with, I stick to click through prototypes, something which makes real life like apps, prototypes like Principle or Prototype. I stick to them. And if it is about simple, just explaining the flow to somebody, where click through prototype will also be fine, then I stick to the simplest stuff. The native prototyping capabilities of Figma, XD, or Marvel, Envision, whatever is there. So which takes the least amount of time, but of course also the quality is also lesser. Where I just need to show the flow. So the tools should be picked based on what you want to achieve.
Okay. So we have one more student from the audience, Yukta. Yeah, you can ask a question.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. So I wanted to ask, how do you deal with difficult customers? If like you are presenting some product to them and they are not liking it, and then you must modify that, and then again presenting, still they are not liking. Like 3 to 4 times they have rejected your designs and everything. And I just wanted to ask, how do you deal with these type of customers or people, when, or even your bosses, if they are like
I
so.
guess, uh, yeah. So before moving to Berlin and before I started working with Graph CMS here, I was consulting for the past 3 years, and that time I had different clients from countries like the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and India, of course. So this is the time when I used to deal a lot with the different clients because I was directly communicating with them. And I would say one advice that I can give you is you just have to ask questions and try to lead them to something which would, I mean, your customers, they are humans, right? They might have some motivations. If you understand what they are motivated by and what they actually want to achieve and why they are not liking a particular thing, you can just do that by asking simple questions, and that would lead to a conversation which would help you understand how you could solve it for them. You don't even have to. I mean, you would not reach a point where it's been like 3 or 4 presentations and they just keep on rejecting your work. That's not going to happen. And also, I don't really believe in presenting something. I do not believe in grand reveals. What I try to do is I try to involve the customer or the client very early in the phase, which means that when I start working on a project with them, I'm asking them a lot of questions right in the beginning. I'm taking their feedback, uh, and also what happens with this is they also feel that they have contributed to something. Then it's not like you have made something for them and they are just supposed to comment on that and accept or reject. They know that they have also played a fair part into that. So you are both again in this together and you are trying to solve the same problem. And it's something how it's exactly how you would work with your teammate. Your customer is also your teammate now. So sharing things early, trying to ask questions which would lead you to their motivations, those things can help.
I hope your question is answered, Yukta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
You don't seem convinced. Do you have any
yeah,
other?
because I faced a similar situation, like you said, that involve the customer into the chats and everything. So when I designed the website, so I presented him many designs. I even he loved the design that I presented also. Like after doing it like 3 to 4 times, I designed the whole website and I presented. He didn't like it, so I just designed the page on Figma, and like I asked my friend, or I will say junior, to do that. and she presented a design in Figma. Then he said he approved the design, but then again, yeah, when I completed the website, he didn't like it. So
Did he
it's
did he
it's
tell you
like
why he did not like it?
yeah, like we discussed many points and all, but he was still not convinced, that he was not sure if this was what he wanted and all. So
What was your first reaction when you got that comment from him?
I was like, okay, fine, I'll make the changes and all. I'll present some art. Like, first design that I presented was not really good. Even I considered that, but it was like I started it for like it was my first time. I did the website design and all, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll make it better and better. Then it like took one
Okay.
and a half months to
So
complete that.
now, obviously, I'm obviously going to missing a lot of context here because I don't know exactly what the problem that you are facing, but I can just give you one general advice which might work in many cases, which would be when you're receiving feedback from someone, the very first thing that you have to do is remove yourself from the equation. Keep your emotions aside. Remember that the comments are not about you; it's just about the work, and then just try to receive that. Try to just take that feedback from an open mind, and then once you have that, try to process it, and then slowly start asking questions. Your immediate reaction should not be that why I put 20 hours into this. Why don't you like that? And just don't try to react like that.
Just to add on this, with what Darshan shared, just remove yourself. One thing is, whenever someone comments on you, maybe if I'm wearing a new shirt, I'm like, how is it? The first reaction they give, like, ठीक है. That moment you stop listening to them, whatever they said. Like, because you have to start very positively, then think about it. Okay, the moment they're like, but yeah, when I'm like, maza nahi aa raha, then we're like, okay, I don't listen to it. I put a lot of effort to it. And one more thing is, which I do is, whenever I wanted to present a design, I send a design a day before to them and ask them, tomorrow I'm planning to do a presentation on this design. So they have a time to think and they have a time to look on the design and come up with some constructive feedback. So what generally happens, they jump on a call, they have, like, you just presented them a design and you are giving them through 2-3 minutes to just think on it. So they're just directly throwing feedbacks at you. They were like thinking on top of my head, I'm like, this could be done in that way. Give them 24 hours to think on the design, come up with some pointers, come up with some design. And if they haven't looked at the design, can we reschedule a design where you can properly look at the design and have some feedback, then we can talk again.
You,
Yukta, I'll also add one small thing there. Like, I agree to everything what Darshan said except one. I'll tell what what that is. So what I have seen often. Yes, I have done my bit of freelance as well. So clients are usually not good at articulating. Okay, so they're not designers, right? They're non-designers. Hence, they are outsourcing the service from you. So they're not good at articulating or giving feedback, and that is something that you'll have to understand. So what they're saying may not be the thing that they're meaning. Okay, so it is very important that you ask questions, where I agree with Darshan, and find out what you're trying to solve, what they want, and also try and understand their visual preference. However, by asking question, by asking for mood board or anything, because often what I have seen, clients jump into visual feedback because that's the first thing that they see. Okay, so if you take care of these two things, it should help you out in a way. And secondly, one more thing that I do, more of a hack, I would say, I never present one idea at a time. I present three ideas: A, B, and then a C, which is a mix of A and B. When I do this, no, I often find people picking up C. It's not a rule or something, but it has worked for me multiple times. Okay, and then they feel that, okay, this is a mix of both, and then they pick up, and without much of a critical feedback. That's one. And I believe in big reveals because it worked for me once a while. The reason being, if you do a big reveal towards the initial part of your big project, then you have won the client. Going forward, you will have very little difficulty in convincing for the rest of the decisions that you take. So yeah, big reveals had worked for me a couple of times.
Yukta, if one thing that I learned from the VP of design at PayU was, uh, he was always busy with meetings, but one thing he never missed was the initial meeting with the PMs, or in this case for you, it would be the client. Was he used to sit with the PMs and sketch stuff out on a piece of paper. I feel a lot of people, they make a design, and when at the end of the day, the first try should be your successful try. If it's not happening, that means you were wrong from the first step. So make sure when you're sitting with the client or you're sitting with the PM, whatever, whoever is the uh, godfather in this case, make sure you sketch something out. You have him on board with whatever ideas you have for the design, even if it's just visual. Just try and understand if he will like it before he even sees the final design. That way you don't work so hard on a piece, and then at the end of the day your screens are rejected. So it's best just to, on day one, sit with him, sketch something out on the paper, even if it's super rough, and just get him on board with all the ideas initially.
I'd like to add something to all of everything that you guys said. I agree with. Yukta, I think that investing a good amount of time in investigation before getting into design is very important. So, especially with my freelance clients, if I had to give a ratio of investigation versus actual design execution, I would say that it's 80-20. So 80 is where the amount of time and effort that you spend with your client in trying to understand what they're looking for. So, like some of my fellow panelists said, that sometimes you need to offer the client some hand holding. This is because we are essentially, think of yourself as an expert that they're hiring to help think through their problem. So they are trying to articulate a solution to their problem through your design. So offering them those kind of scaffolds to help them think through what their problem might be of engagement. They want to create a website to increase engagement for their end users, or it could be for more eyeballs, more conversions. So once you understand what they're trying to get out of that website, like Puneet said, sketching things out, like Satarji said, offering them visual design solutions like mood boards, or showing them inspirations and seeing what they're more inclined towards, or in general assessing what their let's say what's their business model like. So understanding all of those things will help you think about the end product, which is the website, which is a very small part of the problem. The bigger problem is trying to understand why they want to do this or make this website. So I guess more effort has to go into why. Why am I building this? Why does the client need this? Once you have that figured out, then it's just a matter of iterating on the end presentation, which you will get to. That's the easy part.
Hope she's very much clear with the idea.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so the next very important question is that there are a lot of steps while you design a product, such as research, prototyping, and then visual design. So, which step do you think is the most important step? And you put a lot of effort in that step itself, so that the design that you get in the final product, it's very eye-catching, or like you can like say it's a very perfect, near to perfect project you have done. So, Puneet sir, you can.
Yeah, from my experience, just for the visual design part of things, I think it's Saptarshi will agree to this real hard because he's also into it, is micro interactions in motion for me, like for just the visual design aspect of things. Because design, you could make a really good design, but um, you need to add a little bit of delight. These are just visual design things. There'll be a lot of UX designers who will cringe on this, because they don't. There are a lot of people who disagree with a lot of motion design, with a lot of micro interaction stuff. But I think it's always been, for me, it's always been great. We did something at Magic Bricks where we allowed them to save properties for later, and we just rolled it out, I think, before I left Magic Bricks. And it was the response from the users was incredible. It was smooth. It was the interaction design part of it was intact. And I think motion just adds a lot of delight. And you remember an application. If you just use any other application, you won't remember it. You won't keep on using. There's a lot of things that go into motion apart from just, okay, it just looks good. It can often, amplify amplify the usage of something. It could facilitate the user's journey throughout the application. So I think that part of visual design I really like focusing on a lot.
Nice approach towards the product. So, Abhinav sir, do you have any uh, different idea about this? That what should you focus more on?
I kind of more focus into the problem statement. That's my again what why we are doing this and what are the user will they, because there are many times we push something because we wanted it and user were not ready about it. So trying to understand what user wants, what why the business is even doing it. Is it the right time to do it or not? So I try to spend more time on the research part, trying to understand the audience and to understand the current stage of the user, because you cannot just bombard with users with something and they will like, okay, what is this happening? So you have to give them properly. Yeah, the delight with the delight, but I do work. It gives put an little edge on it because that's when they enjoy it. You just give them a feature and they're like, "Ye lo, bahut acha hoga." But you have to delight them and experience. Okay, this is something because when you give them a gift, it's more like a gift. But you just wrap it up a gift and give it to the person. That's okay. But you put a ribbon on it. It gives a delight. So I guess that's when that micro interaction works with. But from my point of view, I mostly focus on the user research part. The delight comes in. Yeah, I take even help from a couple of other designers when it comes to that interaction. Yeah.
So, Pranjal, you may come up. Pranjal, hello. Maybe he's not able to listen to us. So there is this last very, I don't know if it's cringe or maybe I don't know, because every field nowadays is getting connected to artificial intelligence. And I was just going through the articles that Microsoft has come up with the application that is sketch to code, which can convert your handwritten hand drawings to web pages. So is there any chance or anything that could convert a designer or like replace designers from AI? Can there be something like that? Or like AI can take up the designers.
I can
Hell
completely
no.
agree. Definitely.
Please no.
Well, I think Manav, UI design could get replaced, right? Something which is very mechanical at this point of time, which can be done with instruction, can be automated, in my opinion. Of course, what's there in the future, nobody knows. What I'm doing, I'm essentially guessing right now. But there are certain things which I feel you need a human mind to understand. You need a human mind to know what is happening, what you're solving, be it emotions or core problem, right? I think in the previous question we were discussing about delight and all. Puneet and Abhinav had spoken about. Like, think about it. If I talk about a kiss is such a good thing. It's emotional. It's full of love. Only when it is planted on context. When you kiss someone without anyone's consent, the same thing can be a disaster. So, in that way, I feel only a human brain can understand what is relevant and what is not relevant at this point of time. A machine probably cannot be the best judge of that. So, hence, I would love to believe that anything which involves this kind of thinking probably won't get replaced by AI anytime soon. Yeah, would love to hear others'
Manav,
opinions.
you could be replaced too, like some AI bot could be talking to us, just asking us questions.
Oh, that's okay. So unfortunately, we are coming to an end, and we have to end this session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We are very grateful to have you all.
Thank you for
Thank you
inviting
so much
us.
for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for inviting us. And I would like to just to say, for me, it's also a great opportunity where I get to share the stage with these amazing people who are happen to be great designers, and we don't generally interact one to one. But with this platform, I'm seeing all of your work and been looking after your videos, all this what Puneet is doing, what Darshan is doing, and it's great that I'm sharing that platform with you guys. For me, it's something I get over. Thank you guys for inviting me and giving me that opportunity.
Follow all of us on LinkedIn. If you don't, we're gonna haunt you. Trust me. Follow all of us on LinkedIn.
I would like to replace my LinkedIn with Twitter.
You can also put your LinkedIn IDs in the chat box for the students to follow. They can follow you.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you wanna, talk to us about design. I'm sure like all of us will be able to, talk to you about any individual problem